Hello, females, males, bigenders, agenins, nutris, agenders, intergenders, demiboys, demigirls, non-binaries, pangenders, epicene, transgenders, demiagenders, gender fluids, gender fluxes, femmes, bushes, mayos, toasters, attack trappers, trebuchets, mercuries, shutdowns, and my personal favorite, pizza slices, to the Triggercast. I'm your host, Manuel, and with us is Daniel. Unfortunately, I have to do this in post because our original intro did not record properly. So, hello, just me. The originally scheduled podcast will begin now.
Breath of the Wild, new Legend of Zelda, after the patch with the frame rate patch that they did, patch 1.1.1, that fixed a lot of the stuttering issues that happens when you're in some of the more populated areas, especially around the stables.
Okay.
Um, Now, originally this game got tons of perfect scores. It's got a Metacritic score of like the high 90s. And if you first load up this game, and the first thing you'll notice is that it is very different art style if you haven't followed it. But as you get further into the game, you won't feel like it's a perfect 10 kind of game, because in attacking some of the enemies and going into some of the areas, the frame rate really chugs, and most console players don't really care about frame rates too much. But
Marco.
yeah, but it really hurts you when it affects your when it actually affects the gameplay from slowing down. So, but after the patch, they fixed those frame rate issues. Um, so it plays a lot smoother. There are still some areas where it stutters a bit just from places that are full of trees and places where you would expect it to stutter just a little bit, if it because it's not a perfect system or a perfect game by any means. But that being said, I wouldn't give it a perfect 10. I would give it about a 7 or an 8. It is very different. It is a lot of fun to play. The problems I have with it are the music is not there. There's some minor piano notes here and there in the open world that kind of match what you're playing and what you're up against. But I mean, this is Legend of Zelda. I mean, it's got different themes and stuff that have been played over in all the different games that you expect to hear in this. And after playing about 20-25 hours, there are certain scenes where there are certain um, classic melodies that come into play, but they're so quiet, they're so kind of subtle that it makes you wanting more. My other gripe against the game is that weapons just they break way too easily. I mean, the wooden weapons make sense that they break quite quickly, but when you've got a gigantic metal sword, you expect to be able to swing it more than 20 times before it having to break. So I would give this game probably a solid 7.5. We'll say.
Solid, huh? Not flaccid.
Not flaccid at all. Okay, well, I think that was all I had to say about Breath of the Wild. I mean, what were your thoughts?
My thoughts
Do you
were,
agree, disagree, or anything like that?
well, I completely agree with you because we have actually had this chat outside of podcasts, so you actually hit a lot of the points I was going to hit anyways. So kudos to you, and I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. Now, if we never got this patch and we were to continue as if like day one when I got the Nintendo Switch with the Legend of Zelda, which was the launch day, and that was what almost $400. You spent 300 for the Switch and the game, and then of course you need a controller. So actually, I spent more than $400.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, you don't really need a controller, but as a 6'3" male, the little Joy-Con controller at age 27 is just too small for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I had to get I didn't have to, but for comfort and for playability reasons, I got the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. But anyways, if we didn't get that patch, I would still be, I would give it a 4. Like, and even with the points you're also talking about, but for me, like,
Really, that
okay,
low?
well, I mean, for me, it's if you break the immersion that much, like if I'm just walking down a path and it's chugging that bad, I'm sorry, it's terrible. It's why am I even bothering? And the reason why I'd also give it a 4 is also, you know, you go to the next gen console. My fingers are going up and down, mind you, in the
Yeah.
whole air quotes type thing. The next
Yeah.
gen console, you'd expect it to perform quite a bit better, right? Granted, we
Right.
got to 900p and the draw distance has been improved. Other than that, nothing else has changed. And I'm talking about docked, mind you. I don't play undocked, because I want to record my videos, and there's no way
Yeah.
to record videos undocked right now. Um, for me, even fighting one enemy when you're already hitting 20 frames a second, which Digital Foundry's confirmed, and then it just you attack an enemy and there's like it's hard to explain, like a freeze, It's like
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
it feels like the game should not have come out at all. This is the Legend of Zelda. If that and also the 10 out of 10s, it's like, how is this a perfect game? I'm having all these problems. So that's where my 4 to 10 really comes in terms of launch day. Like this should not have
Right.
come out. It's abysmal. It's bad. Now with the patch, I'm right with you on 7.5 because I'm sorry. I as I play the game, I want to put on headphones and play old Zelda music to have something to go with this. I don't like the lack of music. It just feels wrong. It feels like playing God of War Ascension when there was a huge issue with the sound and they had to issue a patch because
Right.
the
Okay.
music wouldn't play in God of War Ascension at times, and I was one of those affected by that. So here I am fighting the final boss, and it's just you hear the lightning because it's a storm, and no music's playing, and I'm like,
Oh.
okay, thanks, that's awesome. This is epic. And that's
Yeah. Really.
where I'm getting with Legend of Zelda. I'm not saying because I haven't gotten that far. You've gotten much further than I have. I'm not saying there's no music anywhere. I'm just saying I'm used to traveling the overworld and like having this awesome theme playing at the same time. Whether it's Twilight Princess, A Link to the Past, you name it, I'm used to the theme. Um, I'm not used to crickets chirping, I guess, or whatever crickets do. Um,
Yeah.
my one question is, have you played patch 1.11? I watched Digital Foundry's video, and the forest looks like it plays horrendously bad, no matter whether you're on Wii U or Switch docked. But it looks like it's where the Master Sword is. I saw a sword and a stone. I was like, is this the Master Sword area?
Yes, it is.
Okay, have you
And
played it?
I was on the original build when I got to the Master Sword, so I don't know if that area has been fixed post patch. But I think I believe I watched I watched the game explained video where they were talking about the difference between the patch and before the patch, and there were some areas where it was definitely fixed, and some areas where it was not all that different. And those areas where, again, the forest areas, jungle type areas, places with a lot of trees, a lot of different objects on screen, still wasn't where you would want it to be. So I imagine that forest area is probably the same.
Yeah, and that's what Digital Foundry confirmed. I was just more in line asking like what like your thoughts, but if you haven't gone through it with 1.11, it's a moot point, because I'm not even that
Yeah,
far.
not in the forest area, but I imagine it's going to be the same.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, that's basically how I feel about the game. I mean, I know I'm gonna get flack for it time and time again as a PC perspective, but like I made a point in a previous podcast, is I don't think it's fair, even if you don't care about frame rates, at least sell your customers a smooth experience.
Exactly.
That's where my viewpoint is. So, Marco, you can suck it. So, I'm not sure which point I want to bring up. You know what? Since Marco usually opens with the PSN very early on, I will open with the Steam for the weekend, since Steam gets the weekend deals on Thursdays. So, since we have, oh yes, and we have to explain the lack of Marco's presence. So, in case you are wondering, the lack of Marco presence has come down to, with Dan associating himself as an attack chopper, I realized I no longer needed an affirmative action hire, so I fired Marco. I got Dan. He's an attack chopper. He's a minority. And the best part about it is he's a PCMR just like me. So bye bye console peasant. PC Master Race is in the house.
That's right.
And with that, I will bring you this weekend's Steam which is the Paradox Publisher Weekend Sale. They have Tyranny, which is a new game with new content. Ooh, that's nice. I haven't played it, but I hear it's similar to um the name escapes me. I'm pretty sure I'll see it in a second. Um, Pillars of Eternity. There you go, which is on my wish list, and it's $17.99 right now. I have to check that out. But it seems like this is a company that's more of the strategy type of thing, whether it be isometric or Magica, which I believe you have, Dan.
Magic? No, it is on my wish list though.
Oh, okay. I thought you had it. Oh, Maddie has it. Okay, I got it mixed up with my brother. Okay. Yeah, it's another top-down game. It seems like Paradox is usually like the Fallout 1 and 2 kind of people, the isometric kind of people. Or is it isomorphic? Whichever word.
Isometric.
Isometric. Okay, I thought I had it right.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here. As Dan brought up before we were able to record in the podcast today, the VR anniversary sale. As I do not really care for VR at this moment, I don't really care. Um, my philosophy with VR is I don't know if you, Dan, have seen a tech tuber I really like, Jay's Two Cents. He did a setting up of his Vive, and he ended up playing Dirt Rally. And this is where I would love VR. And your dad and I were talking about this yesterday. Is in Dirt Rally, you just use the headset to move your head around, as if like because you're driving, so you're not moving, you're just staying stationary, and you're moving your head around to see where the cars are and what where you can turn and whatnot. I love that.
Okay.
If like say you were playing like a game like I'm the lazy gamer when it comes came to the Wii. I would find a way to just stay stationary and still be able to use the damn thing. So for me, I don't want to set up this huge contraption. I don't want to have because I don't have the space either to hook up all these cameras and these tracking devices and whatnot and have this big-ish room available.
Yeah.
I would love to just have the headset on, sit down, and move my head around and move around. And where this came from was Samsung is releasing a double wide screen that replaces the need for two screens put together and removes the bezel. So that's where this chat came from because it was dubbed the peripheral vision thing. And I was like, well, VR could just be like, you're just moving your head around. There's your peripheral vision problem gone. And that's where I would get interested in VR. But as of now, well, besides the price tag, I'm not interested.
Yeah, VR is a little too pricey
Yes,
for what it
and
offers.
yeah, that's the early adopter thing. And what's funny is I'm saying that is yes, I realize I bought the Switch on day one early adopter, so I should have been aware of problems. Yes, you're right. Just to clarify that point, in case someone says something. Um, one other storefront, since I'm on PC and I can use multiple storefronts, and I'm not limited to say, oh, I'm on Sony like Marco, and I'm stuck to the Sony network ecosystem crap. I can go over to, let's say, the Humble Store, who is currently running a Call of Duty sale this weekend. It looks interesting, but I'm not a big Call of Duty player, so I usually pick them up when they're dirt cheap. But they also have Transformers Devastation for 11.24 right now for the next. I think it was showing me a time a moment ago. Now it's not showing me anything. I don't know where it went. It was right here too. That's the funny thing. I guess I can just click on a random icon for it. For the next 22 hours. Well, of course, what, 5 listeners will hear that in that time frame,
Yeah.
and you're one of them. However,
Hmm.
the reason why I'm at the Humble store right now is I have signed up for Humble Monthly as of the first time they had it going, so I wanted to see what I got for free this month. Since it's Friday, I got The Witness, Layers of Fear Masterpiece Edition, Black Mesa, which I already have, so someone will be getting that for free. Like I said, The Witness, Kingdom New Lands, I don't know what that is, Event Zero, Tumblestone, Slime Sand, and that's it. And then I think they were showing off next month that if you sign up now before next month, they're giving. Come on, I just had it. Come on, internet. The Dirt Rally and Inside for next month. So that'll be interesting because we were just talking about Dirt Rally and Inside is, I believe Inside is from the people that did Limbo. So I'm very curious. So no point buying it now because I know I'll get it for free next month. And
Yep.
then I don't feel like going to Origin, but there's Origin, and then there's Good Old Games. So yeah, Marco, haha, I have more stores than you, more competitiveness at the touch of a finger.
That's why we're the master race.
Yes, Master Race. Whoop whoop. And with that, you may make your next point. I just wanted to be Marco for a second.
Okay, well, you had mentioned the Humble Bundle sale on Call of Duty.
Yes,
Um, I'm on Steam, and they've got the entire franchise, that's 36 games, for $832. So I'm wondering how the price compares between Steam and Humble Bundle.
I can get there in a moment, and we can find out if they're doing the whole um package. Come on, Call of Duty weekend. Call of Duty World War blah 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 blah. Call of Duty franchise pack for 72, but I don't think that's what you're talking about because it's 55% off.
No, I don't know. There's a couple
I
bundles on Steam. There's the Black Ops franchise bundle. There's the Zombies Experience bundle.
Oh yeah, that's what's also showing up on Humble. If I go to Steam real fast and I look at it, I might be able to figure out what you're looking at and see where the Humble equivalent would be. Call of Duty. Okay, you said there was an $800 one?
Yes, it's basically it's all the games, all the DLC,
I guess I'll
starting
just
from the first Call of Duty.
I guess I'll just click on Call of Duty Black Ops 2 and hopefully it'll take me 159, 339, 449.77, 742.17. Okay, so for me it's 742.17 since I own a few things. The definitive collection.
Okay.
That I'm asking you. That's what it's called on your
That's
end.
yeah, by Call of Duty Definitive Collection.
I I'm curious if it's a Steam thing, like they bundled it all together because I'm not seeing anything on Humble. Most of the stuff is around the normal price to lower. Nothing is crossing the $100 mark.
Okay, maybe it is something Steam's doing
Hmm. Yep.
because they can.
Wow. Yeah. I'm totally. Oh man, I gotta go 10% off, $742. I better grab that. Call of Duty. There we go. All right. Continue with your next point, since that wasn't really a point.
Okay, so next on the list, I was going to talk about reboots and remakes and
Ooh.
sequels. Seems to be the only thing that Hollywood is pumping out right now, and probably because those are the only things that are really making money. I'm on Rotten Tomatoes right now, looking at some of the reviews. Um, like the Power Rangers remake, I haven't seen yet, but it's got an under 50% score,
Ooh.
so that's not good. Ghost in the Shell, 46%, not too well. However, the Beauty and the Beast remake did really well. It's got a 71% score. Um, so you can see in some cases it works, in some it doesn't. The main reviews that I've read from Power Rangers and Ghost in the Shell is that they don't really follow the source material. They don't capture the original um, spectacle of them. You know,
True.
like the new Power Rangers movie. The review here says it's neither campy, has neither the campy fun of its TV predecessor nor the blockbuster action of its cinematic superhero competitors. So it kind of sits somewhere in between all that. It doesn't capture what made Power Rangers great. It doesn't act like a great superhero movie. And that's according to Rotten Tomatoes. So I haven't seen it yet. Maybe I'll actually like it. I don't know. But Ghost in the Shell, it's the same thing. It's full of cinematic effects, but it doesn't really capture the source material. Beauty and the Beast, however, really expanded on that story and was able to take I think like a 60-minute cartoon, um, and expand it into a full-length movie, and at the same time capturing all the music that made the original great. So that's where a remake actually succeeds, whereas these other two, Ghost in the Shell, Power Rangers, did not. So
You can also argue the reason why Beauty and the Beast did so well is for 2 points. It's a date night kind of film because you know all the chicks, women, females. bigenders, transgenders, blah 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 blah, would want to drag
Yeah.
their companion. I'm gonna use the word companion. With them to go see this, or the other transgenders, girlfriends, blah 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 blah, whatever gender you associate it with. Basically, it feels like a good date night movie for people that are into that, and also it really appeals to kids, and it's Disney, so I can see where that's selling, and doing well. And as you said, also staying faithful to the source material, because a coworker, I'm not going to say the name, um, had told me that a lot of the songs are, from, they're the one and the same. So I mean, it
Yeah.
also kind of hits on the nostalgia factor too, and it doesn't feel like it feels like pure nostalgia, we could say, and not like,
Yeah.
oh hey, here we're gonna take your nostalgia like Power Rangers, but we're gonna morph it, which is funny I'm saying morph, and we're gonna make
Yeah. Really.
changes, and it's no longer pure nostalgia. It's Power Rangers, but it's not Power Rangers, and I think that's where reboots are really in a bind. It's like you don't want to be a carbon copy, but you also don't want to go too far in any direction. Finding the sweet spot is really hard in a reboot.
Yeah, it's got to be tough. I mean, I remember when the suits for Power Rangers were first revealed, and people hated them.
See, I didn't have a problem with the
Now,
suits.
obviously, you couldn't do spandex suits today because it just
No.
doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense back then either. I mean, you go back and watch those, and they don't make sense. But today, you have to update the suits. It's expected, but they went the more alien route, which makes sense to the story, but it just doesn't work on screen as much.
No, and your dad was bringing up a good point. Once we start going too far into space, you start losing your audience. Like, people seem to like a more grounded story, like more in the realm of reality in a way, even though
Yeah.
this isn't very real in a sense. I can't remember his broader strokes on that, but that's all I kind of quite remember. Um,
Okay.
and that's not really pertaining to just Power Rangers. It's like we were talking about, like X-Men in the galaxy instead of like on Earth, because we've had nothing but the events gets bigger and bigger and bigger in an X-Men film. Well, we've done so many end of the world type events. Next one's X-Men in the universe, and it's like I don't think it might not do so well. Like Thor Ragnarok has the potential to fail because, well, it won't because it's Marvel and Thor, but the whole cosmic road trip, and not many people actually care for that far sci-fi. You have a chance of losing your audience. Like, okay, just going
Yeah,
there.
there's got to still be a decent story to it. We got to care why these characters are pummeling the crap out of each other.
Yes, and someone's gonna die.
Yeah.
We can't have a civil
So,
war situation and no casualties, except for the random civilians.
yeah.
But what
Yeah, there
what
are no
turned
stakes
me
in that one.
no, there isn't. But it's still a good film. But yeah, someone should have died and not get crippled. Looking at you, Roddy. You should have died. Oh, that's triggering. Killing the black
Uh
mammoth. Uh oh. Oh. Anyways,
oh.
um, what was I say? Oh, the reason what turned me off the Power Rangers was um, I'm not a fan of the Zord. The Zord just feels way too alien to me. Like, that's where the nostalgia becomes no longer pure. It's way too uncut. Well, sorry, that's
uh-huh.
one and the same. Pure and uncut are the same. It's just too far in the new vision area. It's like if you wanted to do something like that, why not just make it something else, kind of thing? It's going in that far of an extreme to me.
Right.
To where it's no longer nostalgia at anything. Like I see the Zords when they're in there. I'm cracking my knuckles for some reason next to my headset. I don't know why. Um, um, when the Zords aren't combined, that you can tell the red one looks like a T-Rex, the yellow one a saber tooth, yada yada yada. They resemble my childhood nostalgia. But once they
Yeah.
combine, it's like it looks like. Oh, do you remember Digimon, Unimon, War Greymon, and Metal Garurumon combined? It looks kind of like that. Is it Unimon?
Okay. Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Let me make sure I'm getting the Unimon right before. Unimon. Come on. Yeah, no, I'm not. That's a horse thingy. I just
No, that's a
found one.
unicorn thing.
Yeah, I just found one. Pokemon versus Digimon, and it's Unimon versus Rapidash. I have to save that. That'll be in the display. No, is it Omnimon? I can't remember. It's it, it's the two of them combined. That's the feeling I get.
Omnimon. Yeah.
Is it? Yes, yes. This is Omnimon makes me when I see that's where I'm going with that. And I'll have a picture. I'm not sure which one I'm gonna pick. I'll just pick the third one, I guess. But that's what it kind of feels like to me in terms of its look. But yeah. So that's where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
In terms of reboot craze, I'm not particularly fond of it because it's like we've become so saturated in reboots these days. It's like when you have an original story, it's like if someone wants an original story, it's like, oh, right now the studios are crazy about reboots because they're making money right now, but they're starting to not make money either. You know, like
Yep.
Ghost in the Shell lost $60 million, or is projected to lose $60 million. I don't know how much Mighty Morphin, if Mighty Morphin's losing money or not, but it's not critically doing well. Hell, that movie came out what 2-3 weeks ago, and it's like Mighty Morphin what? I'm sorry, Power Rangers what? Um,
Yeah, I don't think it did too well. Still
no,
playing at theaters though, but not in a whole lot.
no. I mean, it's not even been a month yet, so if it gets out of theaters now, it's a bad sign. Um, I don't know. I just uh, reboots are like they're very annoying. It's like cool, something from my childhood's coming back, but also at the same time, it's like, wait, hang on. Knowing the track record of reboots, it's like, no, just stop.
Yeah.
But I'm like running out of steam on that one, so I'm not sure where I'm gonna go from there.
Well, I was gonna bring up Kong, that remake or reboot or I don't even know what you would call it because it's not like the 1930s or even the 2006 one. I think the one that Peter Jackson directed.
Yeah,
It's a totally different take on Kong, and it was actually really good because it didn't try hard to be a remake. It tried to just be its own kind of movie with a previously uh, known character, as King Kong. Um, but it did really well by providing not just the monster madness that you would want to see. You want to see giant monsters fighting each other, of course. You get plenty of that. But there's also a human cast that you actually care about. And this is where I think Godzilla, the Godzilla reboot, really failed, was that the monster parts were awesome, but the humans were, no one really cared. I mean,
I was
Bryan
really waiting
Cranston
for
was
them to
great in
die.
it, but he dies, like less than an hour in.
Yeah,
So, but
that.
Kong was a good remake. A rare one, but a good one.
Let's see. Can you even call that a remake? Because it feels like I don't. It, that's the weird thing because it's like it isn't it. Is it a new studio doing it? Because I don't even know what qualifies as a remake or a reboot until someone says reboot or whatever. To be honest, or
Well,
if like
it's not really a remake like Peter Jackson's was,
yeah,
which was also a good remake. Um, this is just kind of a reimagining of the character,
okay.
so maybe it's more that than and less remake. But you can watch this one and you can watch the original one, and you can like them both for what they are.
Yeah, because
This one doesn't try to take a idea and screw around with it like some might.
see, the point I was going to make was is the Bela Lugosi 1931 Dracula to the Christopher Lee 1958 Dracula. The 31 is a Universal horror film, and
Yeah,
the 58 is a Hammer horror. Um, both great films, very good films, great films. Is that where reboots were successful, or is that a reboot? I mean, you know, it's the weird thing about that.
Yeah, well, there's also 20 some odd years in between. That also helps. Um,
27.
yeah. So,
Which,
and
okay,
also, I mean, it's about taking an idea and expanding upon it and making its own movie.
okay.
So, but I like where Power Rangers failed. I mean, it's been what 30 years since the original series was on TV.
1993. So
Right.
24 when they came out
Yeah.
this year.
Okay. So I mean, where it fails is that it doesn't the people who watched this as a kid aren't the same people who are going to see it in theaters
You're absolutely
because
right on
we're
that.
all late 20s, late 30s. We see this. It's not, it looks goofy to us.
Yeah, you're
And the
right.
people that will watch it didn't watch the originals, so maybe that's where they'll like it and we won't.
They can also say something about all along the lines of sequels taking too long to come out and the audience growing up and not being there when the sequel eventually comes out.
Yeah.
We could take that route too. Like an example, Golden Sun and Golden Sun, the Lost Age, 2002, 2003, or 2001, 2002. They were within a year apart on Game Boy Advance. And then for the longest time, us fans of the games were waiting for the third one, Dark Dawn. It didn't come out till 2010. Well, it didn't sell well, and well, the explanation I can give to it was I was 21 at the time. Um, boobies and vaginas were more interesting to me than a game series I'd been waiting long for. That actually didn't even it wasn't even that good since it had a time jump. It wasn't playing as the original cast. It just felt weird and foreign, and also the weight didn't help. I'd grown up,
Yeah.
even though I still game, it's just that series didn't go with me. And I think that happens a lot.
Right.
Like Half-Life 3, if
Yeah.
it
If they
ever
do
comes
take
out, we
too
might
long,
not
then you
care.
lose the audience. What's that?
I said, like Half-Life 3, if it ever eventually comes out, the audience might not care because we've moved on.
Oh, I
Said,
know. I'll be
no
telling
one
that to
ever.
my grandkids. It'll come out when I've got grandkids, and they'll be like, "Grandpa, why are you so excited about Half-Life 3?" And I'm like, "Well, Sonny, I've been playing this since I was your age, and I waited 40 years for this thing to come out."
Grandpa, this game sucks.
What's
Pull
the
out the
deal with this?
shotgun. It seems like we have to put them
Blow away
down.
my grandkids because they don't like Half-Life 3.
Gotta put them down. Gotta put them
It's
down.
like, all right, boy, you gotta be put down. It's just gotta happen. You don't like Half-Life 3. Oh man. Yeah, Half-Life 3 is gonna come out and it's gonna be like in 24K resolution. With,
That's great. I love it. The part I'm worried about, like with Duke Nukem, sorry, with Half-Life 3 is the Duke Nukem Forever curse.
yeah.
At this point, Half-Life 3 has been so hyped to hell. We know next to nothing about it, and it's already like godlike proportions in terms of our expectations.
Oh yeah, there's no way it'll fulfill anybody's expectations.
Oh God, no. Uh,
That's probably why it'll never come out. They've waited
no.
too long and now they can't release it.
I think what's gonna happen is Gabe Newell's gonna release it on his deathbed and be like, "It's your problem now, guys."
Yeah.
I think that's what he's gonna do. Valve
Yep, he's
closes the
gonna right
next day.
before he dies, he's gonna say, "Oh, here's Half-Life 3. You deal with it."
I've been holding on to this for 20, 30 years. Here you go. I see that happening.
Yeah.
Or whenever they oust him as CEO of Valve, he just releases it on his own. Because I don't know, I know he's like in his 60s or whatever,
Yeah.
so he's not young. Did you
You
know
know what'd
he
be
made?
really hilarious is if right before he dies, or not even before that, but Half-Life 3 comes out as um, a mobile game full of microtransactions and stuff, just to really piss people off.
That's a
And it's called
possibility.
Half-Life Go.
It's a runner. get Gordon Freeman to safety and save the world and save the cheerleader potentially.
Yep.
That's a trademark. That's oh well. Oh, so Rogue One came out on DVD and Blu-ray Tuesday on April 4th.
Oh
Coworkers
yeah,
are
Rogue One.
excited because they can finally watch it because they didn't make it to the theater, which I didn't make it to the theater. I haven't picked it up yet. Um, I will admit I have a problem with the film before even seeing it, and that's because YouTube dropped the Darth Vader scenes. Or, well, I'm not saying YouTube in general. I'm saying people onto YouTube have put the two scenes out there well before the movie came out on DVD and Blu-ray. And my issue is with the Vader and the rebels, where the rebels are trying to run away with the plans, and Vader's like slicing them down and whatnot. Is the plans are like, because the door is like partially open, the guy on the door is like screaming, "Help me, help us!" Here, and then someone comes by, "Here, take this," and it's like, by the time he hands off the plans to the next guy, Vader is like already like getting ready to impale the guy. It's like, what? Why? He's too close. Like Vader could just reach his hand out and use the Force to grab the plans out of that guy's hand, or just immobilize him. You know, for me, that to make that scene work better, um, why not have had it? The plans are just keeping on getting further and further ahead of them, and there's just and all these rebels just throwing themselves at Vader to get the plans to get away, instead of Vader being like within arm reach of the plans. To me, it feels like it's building up fake tension. Even though I know personally the plans are gonna get away because Episode 4 happens, blah blah blah. It's just it adds something to the scene that just doesn't sit well with me, and it could just be me.
Yeah.
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 Oh, Dan's got
Uh,
nothing on that, so I guess we're moving on.
no, yeah, I don't know if I can contribute. All
He
right.
doesn't want to contribute. He doesn't want to be seen attacking Star Wars.
Well, I mean, well, actually, you know what? Now that you put me on the spot like that. Okay. Anyways, the problem I had with Rogue One, especially with the end there, with Darth Vader being like so awesome there, is that he goes from that into Episode 4 like an old man. Like he ages like 40 years in between, just in the way he moves and how slow he is.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like obviously, I mean, Episode 4 was shot at a much different time, in the 70s there, and Darth Vader has grown to become this awesome character, and to put him in Rogue One as he is in Episode 4 would just look kind of goofy. If he
Yeah.
was to be really slow and trot along, slowly killing um, rebel soldiers, it just wouldn't look right for today's audience. So I understand why they did it. It just doesn't make sense when you watch Rogue One going into Episode 4.
Which, if you think about it, do we ever see Vader actually kill a rebel soldier besides choking the one guy in Episode 4? Like, do we ever see him mow people down with his lightsaber? Because I can't think of
No,
any
we don't see
scene.
his lightsaber until he fights Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And he slices Obi-Wan down. That's in Episode 4. And then in Episode 5, he chokes a bitch. Um, and then he goes down on the Hoth once it's pretty much cleared out. As the leader, I'll come down once all the messes really died down. And then the Millennium Falcon takes off. No Vader force action to hold the Millennium Falcon there or anything. Um,
And nothing.
yeah, he just stood there. Um, and then we move on. He points at a bad guy, chokes another bitch. Um, fights Luke eventually, and then that's the end of 5. Doesn't He chokes more bitches and whatnot in between? But I mean, I don't see him mowing down rebels. Tortures Han. We get into 6. Um, he doesn't show up. He shows up in the beginning, and then that was it. And then you don't see him until the Emperor shows up, and then a bunch of talking, bunch of talking, bunch of talking. Then finally fights Luke. Yeah, Vader doesn't mow down any rebels at all, with the exception of Rogue One, as Vader in the suit and everything.
Yeah.
So it does feel a little
And I
weird.
think I mean, Vader, throughout the original trilogy, is more of he relies more on his size and his presence to instill fear. You know, you don't even have to see his lightsaber to want it to immediately want to just run away from him. You just know you're just going to get killed horribly. I mean, you
Which,
could be an entire. I mean, as we see in Empire, he force chokes a guy who's in another ship. He doesn't even have to be in the same room as you for him to choke you to death.
which is awesome, by the way, and terrifying.
Yeah.
Another good point, I was having a chat with a coworker today about this, is the Force and whatnot. And, in episode 4, how the Force is like this mystical thing and whatnot. But then you go to Rogue One, and it's like, I am one with the Force is one with me, blah, blah, blah. Vader mowing down rebels and whatnot. And I love how the Imperial admirals in A New Hope in the meeting before one of them gets choked like a bitch is all like, the Force, what? What is the Force? Mystical sorcery ways, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
how did you guys forget about the fall of the Jedi and the Sith that run the show in the span of, what, 17 years? Is it 14, 17? Something like that.
I'm not. I think it's like 17 years, but I mean, again, the Jedi were all wiped out, so there was really no need for the Force. I mean, the Empire had its great weapon to control the galaxy.
Yeah.
Um,
But that's the
but
funny
yeah,
thing.
you're right. I mean, the fact that nobody knows about the Force anymore seems a little suspicious, but especially when you have in Rogue One where they're talking about it. But again, maybe it's because of the time between all the Jedi being killed and just no one really talks about the Force anymore.
But you would think old admirals that have, come on, they've got to still remember this stuff, they've been around for more than just 20 years. Oh, hey, yeah, the Force. I remember all those General Jedi's going to battle, blah, blah, blah. Or how about the fact that Star Wars Rebels is going on right now with three Jedi running around, two of which are still going, and one of which may or may not be dead, depending on how you view things. It's like the Force is still playing a huge part in the Star Wars universe 4 years before A New Hope.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. It would be weird for them to not recognize the Imperial admirals and stuff and the high-ranking officers to not know about the Force. I mean, it would be like us forgetting about 9/11.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, the killing of the Jedi is not a terrorist attack, but I mean, it's a major event that's happened almost 17 years ago. Next September, actually.
yeah.
Um, we still remember that day. I mean, we remember that time period. Not just that day itself, but stuff around that happened. You know, the extinction of the Jedi would be something you don't forget after 17 years.
No.
And I
Even
also find it hard to believe that that's the first time in Episode 4 that Vader chokes a guy for him to. I mean,
yeah.
I feel like he should have been choking a lot of Imperial officers around there.
He probably
Anyways,
was.
so they would have known he has the Force.
Yeah. And it's just a weird thing, when you do 4, 5, and 6, and then once you get the whole prequels and the expanded universe stories that are in canon right now, like Star Wars: The Clone Wars TV series, the 2008 one, not the great one. Sorry, the 2003 one is awesome. The hand-drawn one by the guy who did Samurai Jack, and
Oh
then
yes, that one was pretty good.
yes, and then you also get Star Wars Rebels and the books where Jedi's are still moving around, being hunted down. Star Wars kind of falls on its face on that point.
Ah, we're just calling it on its merits.
Okay, so the Xbox Scorpio specs have been unveiled to Digital Foundry, and they look quite interesting. I'm trying to get back to a picture and whatnot, but the interesting thing is it still has the same CPU, which would make sense. I mean, if you change CPU mid-generation, that's a whole new architecture, and now you're not only making games for the Xbox One with the old CPU, making Xbox games for the new CPU when we're told they're supposed to coincide in the same ecosystem. So that would be a little odd for the processors to be different. But um, for it to be, it gets a nice overclock from 1.75 gigahertz to 2.3 gigahertz. So that's a boot. a bump, not boot. The GPU's been upped quite a bit. It's supposed to be up to 6 teraflops now. The memory is where I'm very interested because the old Xbox One and PS4s, it was supposed to be a 4-to-4 split where PS4 could use an extra gigabyte from because they're unified RAM, so 4 gigabyte system, 4 gigabytes VRAM, and PS4 was originally able to go 5 to 3, 5 VRAM, 3 system RAM, and it also used GDDR5 unified RAM, and the Xbox One used DDR3, which I mean, if you know numbers, I mean 5 is higher than 3, so by that term, not always in the PC game, but yes, that time around, yes, it's better. Um, and now they're going to 12 gigabytes of GDDR5 for Project Scorpio. This has me very curious because what's the? It's obviously unified. So what's the split? Is it like 8 gigabytes VRAM, 4 gigabyte system? Because they're calling this the true 4K machine. So you're gonna need a lot of video RAM to back that up. So I'm very curious there. Um, but yeah, and the part where I'm curious is with this being like be getting souped up under the hood, but the processor's getting an overclock, so it's still the same processor. So that really means like if you know how games like Homefront: The Revolution, which is a heavily CPU bound game, and the engine's very CPU bound, the Cry engine. It means those games are getting a slight boost, and you're gonna have all this GPU muscle, and it's like meh, you know, this crappy ass processor is pretty much taxed, you know. Um, and I'm curious because the PS4 Pro is at 2.1, and this was at 2.3, so it's a slightly higher overclock, but the GPU is is also been beefed up to where it hits 6 teraflops. The PS4 Pro is 4.1, so that's obviously an improvement. And I'm wondering because you know how the PS4 Pro is almost outsold the Xbox One, but 2 to 1, 3 to 1, since
Yeah.
Microsoft won't reveal the official figures. Um, even though this new Scorpio thing is like obviously on paper much more powerful than the PS4 Pro, and if it's proved to be much more powerful, which I mean, just if the numbers are correct that Eurogamer was given by Microsoft, if those are final, and obviously it's going to blow the PS4 Pro out of the park, the problem is the pricing, and it's rumored to have a price tag of $499 or $599. I think it was $499,
I'm seeing
and
499.
yeah, okay. I'm thinking PS3 for a second. I don't know why. It's rumored to have a $499 price tag, and great. Microsoft's tried that before with the $499 price tag with the Xbox One original, with the Kinect always online and whatnot, and people went to the PS4. But with this beating the PS4 Pro for an extra $100, if it sells, the question is how well will it sell? Because I mean, if Sony is still 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, I mean that's a pretty big gap. That's a lot of ground to cover. So just because your games could potentially play better, a lot of developers might be like, well, there's already more of the PS4s on the market in terms of in people's houses, so they're more bound to buy PS4 games. Like with God of War 2. God of War 2 came out in 2007, but the PS3 came out in 2006. And the developers of the game director, uh, Cory Barlog, I believe was his name, David Jaffe and Cory Barlog determined it was smarter to go to the PS2 route because there were more PS2s on the market instead of PS3s. Hence why God of War 2 was a PS2 game in a PS3 era. Like Dark Souls 2 coming out on PS3 and a PS4 era. There were more PS3s on the market than PS4s. So that's where I'm curious how this is going to play out. Your thoughts?
Yeah. With some of those games coming out at different times, like Dark Souls 2 I believe it used the same engine as Dark Souls 1, and was probably being, so that would be, yes, there are more PS3s on the market and the PS4 was just coming out, but that also cut down on costs, on developer costs by not having to develop an entirely new engine. like they did for Bloodborne. But you're absolutely right. I mean, when it comes to um, the market, when it comes to who to develop for, whether to do Xbox or PlayStation or to do both, you really want to look at which sold more. PS4 sold more, so you may want to develop more for PS4. What will hurt the Xbox Scorpio, I think, is the games. Yes, it looks like it's going to be able to play everything better, even backwards compatibility, and I'm even seeing some stuff about super sampling on the Xbox Scorpio. But if the games aren't there, then what's the point? And at a $500 price point, that's also going to that might dissuade some consumers from going for it because of the price. However, it also, if it is $499, that seems like a good price for that type of system. So people may go for it anyways because they feel like they're getting um, value for that amount of money they're spending. That's what I think.
Yeah, and um, Jared Walton and Twan Nagon. Okay, it just got updated with Twan Nagon as well. But when I read it, it was just Jared Walton. He did an article. Microsoft aims to challenge high-end PCs with Scorpio console. And what Jared Walton found out is the CPU is a tuned version of the existing Jaguar architecture, which we know already. Um,
Yep.
and he compared the processor to. I'm looking for it. I probably okay. Hang on. Here we go. He asks, how does all of this compare to our PC platform? He goes, it's a bit of, I'm quoting here, it's a bit apples to oranges since we have the ability to customize all of our components. The best approximation of the performance offered by Scorpio is our budget PC build, which is a link, and I'll provide this article in the description. And he goes, it includes a Core i3-7100, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and an RX 488 gigabytes. And it also has a large case PSU and a 500 gigabyte SSD, and it costs around $700. So that's the curious question. Now, for their budget PC build, it costs around $700. So you know consoles are sold at a loss. So if the new Xbox Scorpio is basically a budget PC build, which isn't even high end, which is a dual core i3, um, and it's $500. So you know they're probably taking a hit on this. So it makes me really wonder, how much this thing really is and how much the hit is and how viable this will be. Because you have to also remember Microsoft has a huge first party problem right now. It just canceled Scalebound a few months ago or a month or two ago. Um, they're basically relying heavily on Halo and Gears of War right now as their two big first party games. And
Yep.
their track record with indie is not stellar. And I mean, they'll still get supported by third party just because it's big consoles are PS4, Xbox, and the Nintendo. So it's very interesting. Microsoft really needs to woo in talent for first party games because they have a first party problem, and it's usually first party stuff that sells consoles because otherwise, why not just go to PC? Get yourself a budget build or just screw the pre-built route. I mean, really, there's plenty of videos out there. There's plenty of articles. There's plenty of ways you can build a PC. If you're scared, just watch a video step by step. It's not that hard. Or buy something off, on sale or whatever. So I'm very interested to see what Microsoft's gonna do with this Xbox because where the PS4 Pro was considered coming out the gate too soon, which I still believe myself.
Mm-hmm.
The PS4, though, Sony doesn't have a first party problem. Hell, Sony releases a lot of first party games, a lot of quality first party games like Horizon Zero Dawn, Uncharted 4, to name a few. So this will be very interesting, and that's my point.
Okay. Yeah. Switch itself really did come out of the gate too soon.
Well, the
Um,
Switch as well too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just seems obvious. So, but yeah, first party games definitely. That's what sells consoles because you can't get, you know, without emulation and ROMs. Obviously, you can't play Mario on a computer. You can only play it on a Nintendo console. Same with Xbox. They have the Halo series. They have, um, but yeah, the first party games is what sells the consoles. Because like you said, you could just go to PC and play everything. But if you want to play, say, Horizon Zero Dawn, you have to get the PS4 for that.
Pretty much. And Sony doesn't have a problem right now with their first party stuff. And I mean, it even shows in their sales figures. I mean, yeah, sure, there are months where Microsoft beats out the PS4, but I think the last time that happened was what when Gears of War dropped. I mean, someone will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think
Yeah.
that's the last time. And when you don't have anything really driving your console, I mean, don't expect Bloodborne on an Xbox One just because it was developed by Japan studio with From Software, um, and that's supposed to be a PS4 exclusive. I mean, you can maybe hope and beg that Metal Gear Solid 4 might get ported over, but who knows? It's a 9-year-old game that we
Yeah.
all have on PS3. I don't know. I mean, you can make the most badass thing in the world if you don't have something to support it. In just anything, you're
Mm-hmm.
screwed without a client base. Oh, and to hit on to your Mario thing, the people working at it's not is it Simu? I believe it is Simu. Got the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild to run at 4K on PC. I just can't
Oh
find the
yes,
link though.
I was watching a video on it. Um, the CEMU or CEMU
Yeah, I'm not sure what the
emulator.
real.
They were playing it at 4K at about 15 frames per second, which really didn't help the game at all.
No, but I mean it's saying something. We can take your game and bring it to PC. I mean this is technically it is a very gray area here because I mean I can't really say a disc anymore for Nintendo because it's cartridges again. I mean I own the Breath of the Wild cartridge. I physically own it. So if I emulate it to
Yeah.
PC, is that still theft? Even though I own a copy,
Right.
you know. So that's where it's a big gray area. I mean, don't get me wrong. If they can get a 4K 60 on PC, bye bye Switch to me. And the Switch already has a problem of their own. I mean, besides Super Mario Odyssey, when does the next AAA Nintendo game come out that's first party? And Super Mario and Mario Kart 8 doesn't count because it's a re-release.
Yep.
I hear you typing away,
Yeah, I'm searching.
searching.
Yeah, Mario Party, the re-release of Mario Party 8, it feels like one of those Game of the Year editions where they include all the DLC.
Yeah,
It's like, I'm not going for it. I'm not getting a Switch for Mario Kart 8
no,
again.
nope, nope. Unfortunately, the ending to this podcast has been lost. Not sure what happened. So, Manuel and Dan signing off.